Good afternoon and welcome to my channel, Watercolor Painting in the Afternoon. I wanted to show you a part of my next year's 2025 bullet journal. Now this is just my year at a glance, and I've just copied this off my copier and pasted it on here because that's a lot of work to write all that on there. But I've started with January, obviously. And I really liked the way that the January cover page turned out. This is an Archer and Olive book that I got on sale. It was not terribly, it was not overly expensive. If you get them on sale, they're not too bad. The paper is like a craft paper. So it's not going to do real well with watercolor per se, but it does do pretty well with gouache. So I found this picture of the olive palms in South Carolina in January, and I just fell in love with the sunset and the sea oats and the silhouette here. I thought it was really pretty, and I went ahead and put that in my January cover page. And I thought today I would show you how I painted that with watercolor gouache, water-soluble gouache. This is not acrylic gouache. Just for the purposes of showing you, the rest of my bullet journal is just the days of the week and the date. That's it. Here's New Year's Day, so I put some little fireworks out here. And what I like to do is on each page spread like this, where I'm just putting the calendar, I'll take a little something from the cover page, like the sea oats, and put some sea oats down in the corner. I'll show you the next page because I did that here too, right here. Anyway, this is just how I organize my bullet journal. And then I've got this self-care calendar in which I just put a check on there if I have exercised for 30 minutes that day. And this is a medication tracker and stuff like that. So anyway, what we're going to do today, though, I want to show you how to paint this because I thought it was really easy and I thought it was a lot of fun, and it turns out really pretty. So let's get painting. First, let's think about the colors that were used in this painting. There's black, simply a matte black, and I think it's my Turner Design gouache set. It's called Jet Black. So I'm going to use Jet Black for the silhouetted parts. I'm going to use this permanent yellow orange for some of the sunset, but I'll also use this permanent lemon just to mix it a little bit and make it a little bit less intense in certain areas. And then finally I'll use mostly cobalt blue in the sky. So a pretty limited palette here, just some oranges, an orange, a yellow, a black, and cobalt blue. So let's get started with this. And the one thing that I want to remember for myself is that we're going to paint the top 2/3 of the paper with the sky, and only the bottom third is going to have the black, the silhouetted land part. So let's start with that land part. How about that? I think that sounds like a great idea. We'll just take a little bit of this black. Now I already have some indigo here and black, but those are watercolor, and I wanted to use gouache. And that's what I'm going to use today. You know what? I'm going to tape this paper off first though, so I'll be back in just a sec. Okay, I just wanted to do that so I'd have a nice border. Here's my Jet Black. Start out with just a little bit. I'm not going to go crazy with it. And I'm just going to pull a nice straight line across the bottom with this black. You need a good bit of water with your gouache. It'll still be opaque. You don't want too much, but enough. And on this particular paper, it can end up a little bit streaky. This paper that I have this on is more of a watercolor paper, but it's also it's not cotton. It's just watercolor paper that's wood pulp. Now, that is not going to be dark enough, so let's go back with more. And we'll just try to get that as dark as we want it. So that's why I was telling you, you don't want too much water in it. And you can see that this paper, it would be better if I used 100% cotton. Of course, it's always better, y'all, if you use the good paper. I'm just, you know, just to be honest, yeah, it's always better. But who can afford that paper? Sometimes it's just more than you can justify if you're just making a little painting for yourself. And you know, you're not trying to be fancy or anything. You're just trying to make a little painting. We'll let that dry. We can come back and add another layer later. And one thing I want to do now is to look at the sky. And I've got your sky over here has some streaks in it of bright orange cloud and then this nice dark blue cobalt. And we're going to put those in. And I think you could probably, if you wanted to do your own thing here, you could decide not to follow my painting or the photograph that I used very carefully, and you could just sort of do your own thing. But I really like the way this looks. It may vary a little bit because they always do, right? Your paintings always vary. If you do the same painting twice, it's not going to look the same. It never does. So just gonna give it my best shot here. Let's use this brush. This brush looks like about the right size for this. I'll start with some of the blue. Start with some of that beautiful rich blue. And I'm just going to kind of leave a negative painting where I want those clouds to be. I'm going to leave white there so that I can fill it in with that orangey color. I come over here and there's going to be maybe a little cloud right over here that where I'm leaving the white to pick it up. Just right in there. Yeah, if you use a really good paper for this, you're going to get a less streaky result. Mine will be a little more streaky because I didn't do that. I don't really care. I think it'll look just fine. Once it dries, it'll dry a little bit more. Look a little smoother, I think. Now we're just going to get a little bit lighter as we go down across the sky. Here's this cloud. It's almost shaped like a elongated mitten. It's got this little peak right there. I'm just letting the clouds be white for now. They will be filled in with color. This is actually the back of a painting that I just was using the paper for practice. So it's just got stuff on the back of it. And I thought, oh, I'll just go ahead and use the paper up. Now, what I want to do is take my orange and start adding it in down here, because the sky down here is all this rich orange. Look how gorgeous that is. You don't have to tell me twice. This is a beautiful orange, and I love the color. And if you want to be a little bit adventuresome, you can kind of blend that just a little bit. Not too much, because you're going to get green. You don't want green. But that nice little transition is it's so good. It really, I think, it makes the sky look more real. Let's just say. Now let's put the orange bits in up here. Again, I'm not being extremely careful, but I am trying to be as careful as possible with this so that I don't go off onto the blue too much and make green. But you can see how the sunset is just streaking across the sky in this picture. So pretty. I love these colors together. I think they're really nice together. Okay, so and we can come back and we can make that maybe a little smoother if we want to. And then down in here, we also have some darker clouds. Just a couple of little gray clouds that are hanging out right down here. I don't know if you can see those little gray clouds, but I'll put those in after this has dried off just a little bit. Right now, I want more of that cobalt blue. I'm going to try to smooth this out just a little. If you fool with it too much, you're going to be sorry. And so there's a fine line between trying to get it a little smoother and fooling with it way too much. And I think I'm about to cross that line here. So just a little bit more to smooth it out. And then let's leave it alone, she says, as she continues to fiddle with it. Okay, let's let that dry and we'll see what we have. Okay, so now that that's a little bit drier, I think this needs an extra coat. So I'm going to just add a little bit more of the black. And again, again and again, I'm going to say it because this, in part, it's the paper that is making it streaky a little bit. Use a better paper if you don't want it to be streaky. This is great practice if you don't really care. All right, I'm going to leave it kind of like that. I think that's smooth enough. And I'm going to take my rigger, which I should have had that out, right? Where did it go? It is over here. Right here. That took me just a second. It had fallen over. What we're going to do is put our sea oats in. Now, the sea oats are just these stems with little, what looks like oats on the end of it. Some of them are coming up from off the page on this other side. So we're going to put just a few like that. And then some of them are coming up here. Some of them quite tall. Some of them short and stubby. And most of them are right in the center. That's where we see a lot of our sea oats here. They can cross over one another, and in fact do. And if you don't have them crossing over one another, they're going to look funny, because that's not the way that nature works. All right, so now I've got my stems, and I'm just going to put the oats on it. This is so easy, right? So all we're doing is putting little dashes, dash, 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 on the tips of our weeds. And most of them, because the wind tends to blow in one way, one direction, most of them will be heading in the same direction. The little oat dashes that we're putting on here will be headed in the same direction. So it makes for a really interesting looking, and you can have a couple of them coming up over the other side, because you never know, you might be looking at something that's you know, you might have moved around to another part of it, and now you see a couple of the dashes on the other side of a couple of bits of those sea oat seeds. But for the most part, what we have are these sea oats all going in the same direction. Now, not everything has to have the sea oats on the end of it. You can have a couple of them that don't have anything on the end. Maybe the sea oat broke off. We don't know. And a lot of them have these little stems coming off of them, these little bits and pieces. Here, I'm just going to put one right there because I messed that up. Okay. Okay. let's come over here and put a few of those little twigs coming off the sea oats. Maybe one soaring up here. All right. There we go. All right, so that's pretty much the way the sea oats look. Now we can take a small brush like this one, perhaps. This is a little Princeton Neptune #2 round. And I'm going to get just a very faint amount of this, so that's just gray, kind of watery amount. And I'm going to include those little gray clouds up there that were kind of a part of the scene. There we go. And keep coming over. There was another little puffy cloud right here. And maybe some sort of behind these oats here. Just like that. You do want to be a little bit careful with the watercolor soluble gouache because it will reactivate. So it needs to be pretty dry when you do things like that. I'm also going to put a couple of little streaks. You can do this before you do the sea oats too. If that's what you want to do, it might actually be easier, but I just thought it would be, you know, just as effective to put these little streaks in there afterward, especially if you let your sea oats dry. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm not spending a lot of time. I'm not rubbing that paint in a lot. I'm just swishing really quickly. And then maybe just some little dashes here and there. And y'all, I think that's pretty much it. I think that this is pretty much what the picture looks like. And you could do this on a piece of paper. Give this a try on a cheap piece of paper like I did, and then decide, well, you know, I really like that. I'm going to put it on a better piece of paper, and maybe it will perform better for you. And you can cut it out if you want to, and you can paste that into your bullet journal. This is a little scene from the Isle of Palms in South Carolina, and it was said to have been taken in January, so that's why it became my January picture. How do you like that? I think that looks really nice. And it's just a lovely little winter scene at the beach, the Isle of Palms in South Carolina. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did and you're still with me, please give me a quick thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Happy painting!